You've probably seen probiotics marketed for digestion, immunity, bloating, diarrhea, skin health, and even mood. But one name keeps showing up in research again and again: Lactobacillus rhamnosus. When people hear the word probiotic, they often imagine one simple thing: a good bacterium that helps the gut. But in real science, it's much more precise than that. A probiotic is not just a species name, it is usually a specific genus, species, and strain. That means Lactobacillus rhamnosus is not one single uniform product or one guaranteed effect. Different strains can behave differently, and the strain matters a lot. That single detail changes the entire conversation. Because if you've ever asked questions like these: is Lactobacillus rhamnosus good for gut health? Can it help during or after antibiotics? Does it support immunity? Is it useful for diarrhea, bloating, IBS, colic, eczema, or women's health? Is it safe? And which strain are people actually talking about? Then this is the video for you. In today's deep dive, we'll cover the biology, the mechanisms, the best known strains, the clinical evidence, the limitations, the safety profile, how products are marketed, and how to think critically before you buy anything. So let's start at the beginning. What is Lactobacillus rhamnosus? Lactobacillus rhamnosus is a species of lactic acid bacteria long studied for its probiotic potential. In newer taxonomy, some strains are referred to as Lactobacillus rhamnosus, but many consumers, product labels, articles, and videos still use the older and more familiar name Lactobacillus rhamnosus. So if you see both names, you are not necessarily looking at different organisms. Often you are looking at updated naming conventions. This bacterium belongs to a broader group of microorganisms often found in fermented foods, supplements, and the human-associated microbial ecosystem. Certain strains have been investigated for digestive health, immune support, resistance to environmental stress, and their ability to interact with the gut lining. A few features make Lactobacillus rhamnosus especially interesting. First, some strains are relatively resilient. They can survive harsh conditions better than many people expect, including acid stress and bile exposure, at least to a degree. Second, some strains show the ability to adhere to intestinal mucus or intestinal cells. This matters because temporary adherence may help them interact with the gut environment long enough to influence signaling pathways, microbial balance, and barrier function. Third, certain strains have been studied in some of the most practical probiotic contexts: antibiotic-associated diarrhea, acute infectious diarrhea, infant colic, some allergy-related settings, and aspects of gut barrier health. But this is where we need to be careful. The phrase Lactobacillus rhamnosus benefits is popular online, but it is incomplete. In real evidence-based language, the better question is, which strain of Lactobacillus rhamnosus, at what dose, in which population, for which outcome, and for how long? That is the question science tries to answer. Why strains matter so much? This is one of the most important parts of the entire video. A lot of supplement marketing acts as if all probiotics belonging to the same species do the same thing. That is not how microbiology works. Two strains from the same species can differ in adhesion, survival, metabolite production, immune signaling, clinical outcomes, and the quality of human evidence supporting them. So when people say, "I heard Lactobacillus rhamnosus is amazing," the next question should be, which strain? Because it has become one of the most comprehensively studied probiotics in terms of real-world clinical outcomes, particularly in the field of gastrointestinal health. It has also been researched in relation to allergy-related conditions, pediatric contexts, and barrier mechanisms. Where it lives and what it does in the gut. To understand why people care about Lactobacillus rhamnosus, we need to talk about the gut environment itself. Your digestive tract is not just a food tube. It is a huge communication system involving microbes, mucus, immune cells, intestinal cells, chemical messengers, and the nervous system. The gut lining is selective. It wants to let nutrients through while keeping harmful substances, toxins, and pathogens under control. This is where probiotic research becomes interesting. Some Lactobacillus rhamnosus strains appear capable of interacting with intestinal epithelial cells, influencing tight junction integrity, supporting mucus layer interactions, producing metabolites or signaling effects that alter the gut environment, competing with less desirable microbes, and modulating immune responses. Think of it like this. A probiotic does not need to permanently colonize your gut forever to matter. In many cases, even temporary presence can influence local biology. It can affect how cells talk to each other, how inflammation is regulated, and how the gut barrier responds to stress. That does not mean every person will feel dramatic changes. It does not mean every supplement works, but it explains why some probiotic strains are worth studying. And scientists have looked at cell signaling, barrier integrity, and interactions with the microbiome for years. The science of gut barrier support. One of the most common educational themes around probiotics is gut barrier support. Sometimes online marketing turns that into vague language like heal your gut instantly, but the real science is more specific. The intestinal barrier includes physical structures such as epithelial cells and tight junction proteins, chemical defenses like mucus and antimicrobial molecules, and immune surveillance systems that help maintain balance. When this barrier is stressed, intestinal permeability can increase, inflammatory signaling can change, and the relationship between microbes and the host can become less stable. Certain Lactobacillus rhamnosus have been investigated for their effects on barrier-related pathways. In experimental models, researchers have reported effects on tight junctions, epithelial survival, protective signaling molecules, and recovery from barrier disruption. This is important because many viewers hear probiotic marketing claims without understanding the biological idea behind them. The simplified version is this: a useful probiotic strain may help the gut maintain a more stable, less inflamed, and better regulated environment. That does not mean it rebuilds the entire microbiome by itself. It does not mean it replaces fiber, sleep, diet, or medical care. It does not mean everyone needs one. But in the right context, with the right strain, barrier-related support may be one reason these organisms are relevant. Lactobacillus rhamnosus, the superstar probiotic. Let's now focus on the best-known probiotic, Lactobacillus rhamnosus. Lactobacillus rhamnosus stands out because of a few qualities. It has been studied for decades. It tolerates gastrointestinal transit relatively well. It can adhere through specific pili-related mechanisms. It has substantial pediatric and gastrointestinal research. And it appears repeatedly in reviews, meta-analyses, and clinical discussions. When people search terms such as best probiotic for antibiotics, probiotic for diarrhea, probiotic for kids, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, gut health probiotic, this probiotic is often somewhere in the evidence trail. However, a strong science communicator must say this clearly. Lactobacillus rhamnosus is well researched, but that does not mean every marketed claim about it is proven. Some benefits are supported more strongly than others. That is why we need to separate areas of stronger evidence from areas of emerging, mixed, or overhyped evidence. Let's do that now. Stronger evidence area. Antibiotic-associated diarrhea. One of the most discussed uses of probiotics is during antibiotic therapy. Why does this matter? Because antibiotics can be life-saving, but they can also disturb the gut ecosystem. They do not always target only the harmful bacteria. In the process, they may reduce microbial diversity, disrupt ecological balance, and allow symptoms like loose stools or diarrhea to appear. That is where probiotic research became very practical. Across reviews and meta-analyses, Lactobacillus rhamnosus has often been cited as one of the probiotic strains with evidence supporting a role in reducing the risk of antibiotic-associated diarrhea in certain populations. This does not mean it prevents every case. It does not mean it is guaranteed. It does not mean all probiotic products will do the same thing. But compared with many probiotic strains that have little useful human evidence, Lactobacillus rhamnosus has repeatedly shown up in the conversation because it has been tested in real clinical settings. For viewers, the main takeaway is simple. If you are researching probiotics specifically because of antibiotic-associated diarrhea, Lactobacillus rhamnosus is one of the names you are most likely to find in evidence-based summaries. Still, the details matter. The dose matters, the timing may matter, the population matters, and product quality matters. And importantly, probiotic use should not replace medical guidance, especially in high-risk individuals. Stronger evidence area. Acute infectious diarrhea. Another area where Lactobacillus rhamnosus became widely discussed is acute infectious diarrhea, especially in pediatric contexts. Historically, some reviews and guidelines highlighted Lactobacillus rhamnosus among probiotics with evidence suggesting it could shorten the duration of diarrhea or support recovery in some settings. But this is where modern science communication needs nuance. Earlier enthusiasm was stronger. Some later analyses and trials have shown mixed or less dramatic effects depending on the population, disease severity, and study design. That does not erase earlier findings, but it does remind us that probiotic research can evolve over time. So the honest message is, Lactobacillus rhamnosus has been one of the most studied strains for acute infectious diarrhea, and evidence has often been considered meaningful, especially compared with poorly studied probiotics. But the size and consistency of benefit can vary, and not every study shows a dramatic effect. This kind of balanced explanation makes your content more credible than videos that simply claim, "This bacteria cures diarrhea." Science almost never sounds like that. Infant colic and early life interest. One reason Lactobacillus rhamnosus appears in parenting and infant health discussions is early life gastrointestinal research. Infant colic is a difficult and emotional topic. Babies cry for long periods, parents are exhausted, and everyone wants safe, practical solutions. Probiotic science entered this space because researchers suspected that the gut microbiome, intestinal signaling, and low-grade inflammation might influence symptoms in at least some infants. Recent meta-analytic work has suggested that Lactobacillus rhamnosus may be effective in treating infantile colic in certain settings, though the evidence base still needs more clarity about dose, duration, population, and protocol differences. This is important because colic content spreads quickly online, and parents are especially vulnerable to over-promising marketing. The responsible message is, Lactobacillus rhamnosus is a probiotic with emerging and, in some analyses, supportive evidence in infantile colic, but it is not a magic fix for every crying infant. colic is complex, and feeding type, age, study design, and clinical context all matter. Allergies, eczema, and immune balance. The mixed zone. Now we move into one of the most confusing areas of probiotic content. You will often hear that Lactobacillus rhamnosus helps with eczema, allergies, or immune health. Sometimes that claim is partly inspired by genuine research. Other times it is a massive oversimplification. The immune system is deeply connected to the gut. Microbial exposures early in life can affect immune education, tolerance, inflammatory signaling, and barrier interactions. That is why probiotics have been studied in atopic dermatitis, food allergy-related settings, and prevention strategies. But for Lactobacillus rhamnosus specifically, the evidence is not a clean, universal yes. Some studies and reviews suggest potential benefits in certain allergy-related contexts, but a meta-analysis focused on Lactobacillus rhamnosus for the primary prevention of eczema found it ineffective overall for reducing eczema risk. On the other hand, broader probiotic analyses or mixed strain approaches may show different outcomes. So the key lesson is this: do not confuse. Some probiotics may help in some allergy contexts, with Lactobacillus rhamnosus definitely prevents eczema. That leap is not scientifically justified. A better way to explain it is, the gut immune connection is real, L. rhamnosus strains are biologically interesting, some studies suggest benefits in some settings, but results are mixed, and outcomes are strain-specific and context-specific. That is the truth viewers rarely hear. Immunity. What does that really mean? The word immunity is one of the most abused marketing terms in the supplement industry. Many brands say a probiotic boosts immunity. But what does that actually mean? The immune system is not something you simply push upward like a volume button. Healthy immunity is about balance, regulation, appropriate defense, tolerance, and communication between immune cells and tissues. Some Lactobacillus rhamnosus research suggests that these bacteria can influence immune signaling pathways, cytokine patterns, epithelial immune crosstalk, and microbial competition. That is scientifically interesting. But consumers deserve a more grounded message. A probiotic may support aspects of immune function by interacting with the gut environment, but that is very different from saying it will prevent all infections or make you immune. What we can say more safely is that certain probiotic, including Lactobacillus rhamnosus, have been studied in relation to gastrointestinal infections and immune-related regulation, especially in children. The evidence is strongest when discussing specific outcomes, not vague wellness slogans. In other words, supports healthy gut-immune interactions is closer to the science than supercharges your immune system. IBS, functional gut symptoms, and bloating. This is where many adult viewers will be paying close attention. People search YouTube every day for probiotic for IBS, probiotic for bloating, best bacteria for digestion, probiotic for stomach issues, gut health supplement, probiotics for adults. So where does Lactobacillus rhamnosus fit? There has been interest in using probiotic strains for functional gut symptoms such as abdominal discomfort, bloating, and IBS-related problems. Some reviews have mentioned Lactobacillus rhamnosus in IBS discussions, but the evidence is not as clean or universally accepted as it is for antibiotic-associated diarrhea. Some people may feel better. Some trials may show modest benefits. Some formulations may work better than others. But IBS is a broad condition with multiple subtypes, triggers, and mechanisms. That means the phrase best probiotic for IBS is already too simple. A more accurate educational point is this. Lactobacillus rhamnosus probiotic has been studied in some functional gastrointestinal contexts, but outcomes are mixed and should not be treated as universally proven for every person with IBS or bloating. Can Lactobacillus rhamnosus colonize the gut permanently? This question comes up constantly. People often assume that if a probiotic is beneficial, it must move in permanently and become a lifelong resident. That is usually not how probiotic supplementation works. Many probiotics are better understood as transient visitors. They pass through, interact with the environment, influence signaling, affect local microbial dynamics, and then decline when supplementation stops. That does not make them useless. In fact, temporary function may be enough to matter. A good analogy is this. A helpful guest does not need to buy the house to improve what happens inside it. For Lactobacillus rhamnosus, the meaningful question is not just, does it live there forever, but rather, can it survive long enough to interact with the gut? Can it influence barrier signaling? Can it change microbial activity? Can it help reduce risk or symptoms in the right context? Those are more useful questions than the simplistic colonization myth. Food sources versus supplements. Another practical question viewers ask is whether they need a supplement or whether fermented foods are enough. Fermented foods can be valuable. Yogurt, kefir, and other cultured foods may provide live microorganisms and support dietary diversity. But if your goal is a specific evidence-based probiotic such as probiotic, food alone may not reliably give you the exact probiotic dose or standardized delivery used in trials. This is one of the major differences between general healthy eating and targeted probiotic supplementation. If someone wants broad microbiome support, diet quality, fiber intake, fermented foods, sleep, exercise, and stress regulation matter enormously. If someone is asking a more targeted question like what probiotic strain has human data for antibiotic-associated diarrhea, then a strain-identified supplement may be more relevant than a random fermented food. So the answer depends on the goal. How to read a probiotic label like a scientist. If you want your viewers to make better decisions, teach them label literacy. Here are the most important things to check. 1. The full strain name, not just Lactobacillus rhamnosus. Ideally, the product should identify the strain, such as GG if it is LGG. 2. The dose. Many products list colony-forming units, or CFU. More is not always better, but products should clearly state the dose and ideally the dose through shelf life, not only at manufacturer. 3. Storage requirements. Some strains need careful storage. Others are formulated for better shelf stability. 4. Clinical relevance. Does the brand connect the strain to actual human studies, or does it just list buzzwords? 5. Quality and transparency. Third-party testing, manufacturer quality standards, and realistic claims matter. 6. Intended use. A probiotic marketed for general gut wellness is not the same as one chosen for a specific evidence-supported purpose. Safety. Is Lactobacillus rhamnosus safe? In general, probiotics such as have been used widely and are considered safe for many healthy people. But generally safe does not mean risk-free for everyone. This is one of the most important trust-building sections in the whole video. There are rare reports of probiotic-related infections, including bacteremia, particularly in highly vulnerable individuals. Risk is more relevant in people who are severely immunocompromised, critically ill, have central venous catheters, severe underlying disease, or major disruptions in barrier integrity. So the responsible public health message is, for many healthy individuals, probiotic use is often low risk, but high-risk groups should not self-prescribe casually based on wellness marketing or a social media clip. That one sentence can protect viewers. You can also add a practical reminder. If someone has a serious medical condition, is immunocompromised, is hospitalized, or is considering probiotics for a fragile infant or medically complex child, they should discuss it with a qualified clinician. Common myths about Lactobacillus rhamnosus. Let's clear up some myths. Myth 1. All Lactobacillus rhamnosus supplements do the same thing. False. Strain differences matter. Myth 2. If it worked in one study, it works for everyone. False. Outcomes depend on population, protocol, timing, and purpose. Myth 3. More CFUs always mean a better probiotic. False. Evidence, strain identity, delivery system, and fit for purpose matter more than giant numbers alone. Myth 4. A probiotic can replace diet and lifestyle. False. Fiber, food quality, sleep, movement, and stress management are foundational. Myth 5. Probiotics permanently rebuild the microbiome overnight. False. Effects are often modest, context-dependent, and sometimes temporary. Myth 6. If a brand says immune support, that means proven disease prevention. False. Marketing language is often far broader than the actual evidence. Lactobacillus rhamnosus and the bigger microbiome. Picture one probiotic strain is never the whole story. People love simple heroes. One bacterium, one supplement, one answer. But the microbiome is a complex ecosystem. Different microbes interact with each other, with dietary fibers, with bile acids, with host immune systems, with medications, and with lifestyle factors. So, a mature understanding of Lactobacillus rhamnosus looks like this. It may be one useful tool in a larger health strategy, especially when a specific strain and indication line up with the evidence. But no probiotic should be framed as a complete replacement for a high-fiber dietary pattern, food diversity, adequate protein, healthy sleep, regular activity, stress management, or medical care when needed. What the research does and does not prove. This chapter is crucial because it protects your content from becoming outdated too quickly. What research supports reasonably well. Specific Lactobacillus rhamnosus strains, especially probiotic-ler, have meaningful human research. Lactobacillus rhamnosus is one of the better-known probiotic for antibiotic-associated diarrhea prevention. Lactobacillus rhamnosus has extensive gastrointestinal and pediatric research. Some evidence supports use in certain diarrhea-related and infant colic contexts. What remains mixed, limited, or context-specific. Universal benefits for IBS, broad claims about eczema prevention, generalized immune boosting, dramatic body composition changes, permanent microbiome transformation, all-purpose gut healing. What research definitely does not prove that every L. rhamnosus product is equal, that probiotics solve all digestive issues, that one strain works the same for all ages and conditions, that everyone should take a probiotic daily forever. Practical use cases viewers actually search for. Let's translate the science into real viewer questions. Should I take Lactobacillus rhamnosus with antibiotics? Potentially relevant, especially if the product uses a probiotic such as Lactobacillus rhamnosus with evidence in antibiotic-associated diarrhea. But timing, dose, product quality, and medical context matter. Can it help gut health after antibiotics? It may support recovery or symptom management in some people, but probiotics are not the whole recovery story. Diet and time matter too. Is it good for kids? Some of the most substantial research around Lactobacillus rhamnosus is in pediatric settings, but for infants and medically vulnerable children, guidance matters. Can it help bloating? Possibly in some people, but evidence is mixed and bloating has many causes. Can it help eczema? This is more complicated than the internet makes it sound. Some broader probiotic discussions suggest potential benefits in some allergy contexts, but Lactobacillus rhamnosus specific prevention evidence for eczema is not consistently supportive. Should everyone take it daily? No, not everyone needs the same supplement, and there is no universal rule. How to build a smarter gut strategy around it. If a viewer is considering a probiotic, here's the smarter framework. Step 1. Define the goal. Are they trying to support general digestion, research a specific issue like antibiotic-associated diarrhea, or simply improve overall microbiome supportive habits? Step 2. Fix the basics first. A low-fiber, ultra-processed diet cannot be fully rescued by one capsule. Step 3. Choose strain first, not hype first. Look for strain identification and relevant evidence. Step 4. Be realistic. Some people notice meaningful change, others notice little. That variability is normal. Step 5. Respect safety context. Healthy adult wellness use is different from use in medically fragile people. Final summary. So, what is the bottom line on Lactobacillus rhamnosus? It is not just another trendy probiotic buzzword. It is a scientifically important bacterial species with probiotic-specific relevance. And one probiotic in particular, Lactobacillus rhamnosus, has become one of the most studied probiotics in the world. The strongest reasons it matters are not fantasy wellness claims. They are much more practical. Real research in gastrointestinal health, meaningful interest in antibiotic-associated diarrhea, extensive pediatric study, biologically plausible barrier and immune interactions, and enough evidence to justify serious discussion without pretending it does everything. At the same time, the most honest message is also the most useful one. Not all probiotics are equal. Not all Lactobacillus rhamnosus strains are equal. Not every claim is proven. And the smartest way to use probiotic science is to match the right strain to the right question. That is how you move from supplement hype to evidence-based microbiome thinking. If you want more deep, science-backed videos on probiotics, gut health, microbiome research, and evidence-based supplement education, subscribe and tell us which bacterium you want covered next. And remember, the future of gut health is not about magic pills. It is about understanding biology better. If you want to understand how your body really works and the benefits of probiotics, subscribe to this channel because we turn complex scientific topics into simple and powerful information that you can actually use. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who cares about their health.